Thank you. All right, so in the summary, 1 goes to 1, 2 goes up to 1 and back down to 2, so 2 goes to 2. And then, Eric, where does 3 go?
3 goes to 2.
Yep, 3 goes to 2. It goes to 2 and it stays at 2, so 3 goes to 2. Good? All right, this is awesome. You guys are knocking this out of the park. All right, then we're going to go down to doing new ones. So using function tables. So we want to do f of g. So what do we do? Which one do we do first then? If we do f of g, which one are we doing first? I have one answer. Anybody else? What do you guys think? G. Do G first. First, write it as f of g of x. And then that reminds you, right? As soon as you see f of g, rewrite it as that, and that will remind you which one to do first. So first you're going to do g. All right, now you have 4. 1, 2, 3. Let me give myself a little bit of room. 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. And then you're going to have f. 1, 2, 3, 4. And then over here you'll have your f of g of x. The summary. All right, so just take a look. G, input of 1 has an output of 2. So where am I going to draw a line? 1 to 2. Is that everyone kind of following? Is that making sense for folks? Mm-hmm. All right, so you guys do this one. And then the next page, you flip the page. Oh, nope. Just do that one. That's it. Then we start the menu. All right, so take a few minutes and do this. Okay, so let's see if we got this. So as I go through this, 1 goes to 2, 2 goes to 1, 3 goes to 4, 4 goes to 3. And then F, 1 goes to 3, 2 goes to 4, 3 goes to 2, 4 goes to 1. So my summary, if I start off at 1, I end up going to 2, and then from there I go to 4. So if I start off 1, I end up at 4. If I start off at 2, I go to 1, and then I go down to 3. So if I start off at 2, I end up at 3. And here, if I start off at 3, I go to 4, and then I go up to 1. So if I start at 3, I end up at 1. And 4 goes to 3, then to 2. So if I start off at 4, I end up at 2. Good? Right. Okay. Next page. Fox, go to read for us.
Composition using graphs and functions. If the graphs of two functions are known, we can use their graphs to perform compositions of the functions in the same way we used the mapping diagram above. When working with graphs, use the fact that the input is the x-coordinate of a point on the graph, while the output is the y-coordinate of a point on the graph. The value of the y-coordinate representing the output of one function becomes the input value x-coordinate of the second function. Before looking at an example, we need to learn some new notation. Composite function evaluation notation. We know that the notation fx represents both the evaluation of a function named f and the output or result of that evaluation. We sometimes write y equals f of x to emphasize that the output fx represents the y-coordinate of a point on the graph of the function f. As you saw above, the notation f of g is used to indicate the composition of two functions f and g. This notation may be combined with function evaluation notation to indicate that composition is to be performed and the result is to be evaluated using a specific input, x value.
Perfect. Thank you. Alex, have you read yet today? Have you read yet today?
No.
Okay, great. Go ahead and read.
For instance?
Mm-hmm.
Okay. For instance, refer to the mapping diagrams on page 2. From the diagram for function g, we use function evaluation notation to write g of 1 equals 2. Similarly, from the diagram for function f, we can write f of 2 equals 1. As we saw in the mapping diagram example, after composing f and g, the result was that one mapped to 1. Using this fact along with function composition notation and function evaluation notation, we have f of g of 1 equals 1.
Nice.
Note, the convention in mathematics is to enclose f of g in parentheses when indicating evaluation in order to avoid confusion.
Okay, yeah. So, and again, I would suggest that you just automatically take the f of g and turn it into this. F of g of, and then if it's of 1, then it'd be like that. So here you know that you do g first. You put at 1 into g to get the, so remember here, x is my 1. G of 1 is my f, my first f, right? Or you take that first f, our first output, sorry. G of 1 is my y. I'm telling you this fucking up. All right, so g of 1 is my y, my first output. And I'm going to take that output and make that the input for g. So this first y becomes my x that gets put into f to make my final y, my final output. All right, so let's take a look. We're going to do this graphically. So here, I want f of g of 2. So I'm going to write, first I'm going to rewrite this as f of g of 2. Because that just makes my life easier, right? So let's find g of 2. Here's g on this side. G of 2. So g of 2 is equal to what? So g of 2 is g of 2 my x or my y?
Your y.
My y. What's my x? 2. So when my x is 2, boom, what's my y?
Your y is 1.
1, my height. Y is my height. X is my left, right. Y is my height. So g of 2 is 1. Everybody with me on that part? Now I need to find f of g of 2, which really means f of 1. Whatever I get there, I'm going to throw into f. Does that kind of make sense? So 1 becomes my input to f. So what's f of 1, folks?
4.
Yep, so I go along here until I get 1, go up, boom, it's right there.
Oh, you go to the next graph.
Yeah, because I go to f.
Oh, I get it, okay.
So f of g of 2 is 4. Right?
Okay.
It is sort of graphically. First you go to G, you go to 2, you find your output of 1. You take that 1, you pop it in your output, your input for F. You go up and you find your output of 4. Right? Right, this is on the next page. So it's on the next page, coming on the next page. So now we're going to do some. Yeah, it means you put it into G twice. You put it into itself. So I'll do the first one with you, make sure we're good here. F of G of 2. This is the same thing as F of G of 2. So first I need to find G of 2. What's G of 2? G of 2 is, if I go to G first,
Two.
yep, here's my 2. What's my output? Negative 1. So everyone kind of following that?
Oh,
Right, this is 2 comma negative 1. So an input of 2 gives me an output of negative 1. So this becomes now F of negative 1. So I'm going to write that in between steps so I have it. Do you guys understand what I'm saying? So I'm going to write down what I want first in like the easier notation, and then find this inside. Once you find that inside, say, well, what's my G of 2? Oh, it's 1. So then write F of negative 1 instead, or it's negative 1. So write F of negative 1 instead. Now what's F, go over to F. What's F of negative 1? If I put in negative 1 into my X, what do I get for my Y?
-3.
Negative 3, it looks like, yeah. Right, F of negative 1, negative 1's right here. Right, I go down, it's right there. So this is negative 1 comma negative 3. So this is equal to negative 3. Done. G of F, that means I do which one first?
D.
Nope.
F.
Rewrite it. G of F of negative 4. Keep your life, just make your life easier. What do I do first? F. Do F first. And then G of G means you do G first, you do G of 4. So you find G of 4, and then whatever you get for G of 4, you throw that back into G again to get your answer. That's what that one means. So in your groups, go ahead and take, is there just these ones here? There's some more over there. Oh yeah, so you got some more in the back. So you got a whole bunch. So we'll probably take 10 or 15 minutes to do this with our groups. So go ahead and hop in your groups and work on this. What helps is, if you find G of 2, G of 2 is negative 1. They're the same thing. G of 2 and negative 1 are the same thing. So everywhere you see G of 2, instead of writing G of 2, you can just write negative 1. So this becomes, instead of having G of 2 there, you can just write negative 1 instead, because they're the same thing. Right? Once you find G of 2. So then you find F of negative 1. So can I do the in-between step? Find F of negative 4. You find F of negative 4, then replace it in here and just put G of whatever F of negative 4 is. A lot of you guys too, you need to really think, okay, so everybody, what is this? This is G, everyone say it with me, G of F of negative 4.
Yeah.
G of F of negative 4. So this parentheses means of, right? It just kind of is. So find F of negative 4 and then put that in to G. So if I find F of negative 4, what's F of negative 4? If I go to my F, negative 4, boom, 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 it's 6. So since F of negative 4 equals 6, that means everywhere I see F of negative 4, I can write 6 instead. So I'm going to take the 6, and I'm going to put it in, that's kind of too big, sorry. 6, I'm going to put it inside here. I'm just going to replace it. So then this becomes G of, well, instead of F of negative 4, I'm going to write 6 instead, because F of negative 4 is 6. So then G of 6, I go over to G. Which one's G? Here's G. 6, there it is, boom, right there. 1. This is a little bit trickier, because it's G of 4. So first I need to find G of 4. So I need to find G of 4. G of 4 is equal to, I don't know, which one's G? Here's G. G of 4 is, looks like 0, right? It's on the line, so it means its height is 0. So G of 4 is 0. So I'm going to take that 0, I'm going to throw it in. Everywhere I see G of 4, I'm going to replace it with 0, because they're the same. So this becomes G of 0. And I just find G of 0. And again, I really suggest you guys rewrite this. Because which one do I do first here, F or G?
G.
G. It helps you write it F of G of 0. So that means you just find G of 0. G of 0 is whatever, replace that in here and find F of that number instead. Remember, G of 0, this is my Y when X is 0. Find that Y, those two things are equal, so that means instead of writing this, you can just write whatever you get for the answer there instead. And then you find F of whatever that number is. And remember, of means, you put inside here, F of whatever that number is. That's your new X. And don't forget the back page. Would this help you guys if you guys did this? F of G of 0, if you found G of 0, G, and you did, G of 0 is negative 2. So you did 0 goes to 2. Would that help you if you did it that way? And then you wrote your F and figure out what F of 2 goes to. So then F of 2 goes to 6. You did it like that. Would that help you? So then G of 0 goes to 6. Would that be helpful, or is that even more confusing? I don't think that's right. G of 0, wait. G of 0 is negative 2, my bad. G of 0 is negative 2. So would it help you to do something like, G has 0, comma, negative 2, and then find F and say F has negative 2, and then figure out where negative 2 goes to? Negative 2 goes to negative 2. Would that be more helpful to do it that way? And say, I start G at 0, I go negative 2, and then I go F, I go from negative 2 to negative 2. If that is cleaner for you, then you can do it that way. So then you know that this is your starting, this is your ending. So this is your input, then your output shouldn't have been this guy over here. Is that not better? I don't know. I'm just trying to troubleshoot. Oh, whoops, I didn't do that.
Here's the same page that you